Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1115B, and today's date is October 31st, 2016, and the title of the episode is U.S. Government Running Out of Options in the Middle East. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement for those people who are celebrating Halloween. Happy Halloween. And I'll be uploading a new interview on Tuesday, November 1st. It is with Jim Willey. He breaks down the transition, what we can expect. If you are on the X22 Report email alert system, I will send you an email alert letting you know the video is up. If you subscribe to YouTube should send you an email. If not, you can go right over to the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel, and you can see the video there. Or you can come over to the x22report.com site, scroll down a little bit, you'll see the video on the right-hand side, or you can go to newssentinel.com. Same thing, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, and you can view the video there. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the U.S. government central bankers, they have been pushing the idea of political correctness, safe spaces, free speech zones, you name it. They've been pushing this to keep people afraid, to keep people silent, to make people not speak about things they don't want them to speak about. And there's an NYU professor who launched a Twitter war against the growing trend of universities coddling students with safe spaces and trigger warnings. And he was speaking out. His name is Michael Rechtenwald. He's a professor of liberal studies in NYU. And he was forced to go on paid leave for the rest of the semester after his Twitter account was uncovered. And his Twitter account was called Deplorable NYU Professor, and it was linked back to him. And he talked about safe spaces and trigger warnings and other aspects of academia's growing PC culture, and how he was against this, and how he said it's kind of ridiculous to do this to our students. And we can see today that the establishment, they don't want him speaking freely about this. Now, in the past, back in the 60s or so, I don't think they would have a problem. But today, it seems like they point people out. I know Professor James Tracy was also called out for questioning Sandy Hook, the shooting that occurred there. And we're seeing this quite a bit. And he says, this is like a Salem witch trial. They took my views personally. I never even mentioned that I was even associated with NYU, that I was a professor there. And he was talking about academia at large. But we can see that the establishment, they don't want people talking about certain things. They don't want people interrupting their narrative of the entire story, that you need to be politically correct, that you need to be afraid, that there's such thing as safe places and trigger warnings and free speech zones. Because remember what they're doing. They're educating our children for what comes next. And what comes next is the removal of the Constitution and the rights of the people. And this is why they're pushing this. And if they can't get that, they want all of this in place to make people believe that you need to be afraid. You need the government to take care of you. You can't speak freely about certain things. And they've been doing this for quite a while. And we see we're getting to the point where they're not letting anyone talk about it whatsoever. And if you try to question the establishment, they remove you. And we can see why this is happening. Because they're trying to squash any of these type of voices. And again, this is censoring. Again, this is controlled speech. This is permitted speech. And we're seeing it happen right in front of our eyes. And this is how you close down a society. We mentioned this and we went over it many, many times. And they're doing it every single day. And of course, when people look back in time, you'll be able to see the entire picture and say, oh my God, this is how it happened. Why didn't we realize it? Well, we do realize it. We understand that it's going on right now. But it's very hard to convince people because people don't see it. because they're in the middle of it. You have to step back and take a wider view of what's really going on. Out in Ukraine, we see the people out there. Well, they're starting to realize that coup d'etat that the United States had in their country, well, it really didn't work out for them. And they had this law that was passed where the politicians had to reveal how much they actually have. And it was their anti-corruption reform, requiring senior Ukrainian officials to declare their wealth online. Now, the population is looking at this, and they're starting to realize that these politicians are worth millions of dollars. They declared millions of dollars in cash, fleets of luxury cars, expensive Switch watches, diamond jewelry, large tracts of land. And for most of the people in Ukraine, where their salary is just over $200 a month, they're looking at this and saying, wait a minute, what is going on here? We're being run by oligarchs. Yes, you are. The coup d'etat made everything worse in Ukraine. Think about what happened there. The United States came in, spent $5 billion to overthrow the elected leader. Once they did this, the entire country went into a huge amount of debt. Their gold was stolen by the Federal Reserve. We had pieces of the country broke away from Kiev because they didn't want to be part of this new puppet regime. The southeastern people decided they didn't want to be part of it. A war started in the country, and the value of their currency continually declined. And the whole entire economic model disintegrated. So today, with the United States having this coup d'etat, having regime change, again, did not work. The people in Sudan, Libya, Yemen, Lebanon, Iraq, they all understand this. Their countries are always at war. Their economies are declining. They're in a huge amount of debt. And it's not improving whatsoever. Actually, it is getting worse. And every country the United States goes in, has regime change, we see the same exact pattern. We see the U.S. Treasury Department announce that U.S. Acting Undersecretary for Terrorism and Financial Intelligence Adam Zubin, well, he's heading to Europe to convince the Europeans we need to keep the sanctions on Russia. Because we know a lot of the European countries are saying, you know something, maybe we should remove these sanctions. It's not helping our economy. It's not helping our relations with Russia, but the United States is continually forcing them to keep these sanctions alive. And what they're out there saying is, listen, we're going to keep these sanctions until Russia fulfills the provisions of the Minsk Agreement. Well, Russia was the one that created the Minsk Agreement. Russia was the one trying to get Kiev to fulfill its part. And guess what? Kiev is under orders never to fulfill that part of the Minsk Agreement, so this agreement can never go anywhere. And they can continually say this because it sounds great on the corporate media and through all the political networks saying, you must fulfill the Minsk Agreement, when they absolutely know this is completely impossible. So this way they can keep the sanctions on Russia. We see out in Britain, there are drone operator job ads that are being run out in that area. And they're looking for operators to fly kill missions from the UK soil. And we can see right now that there's an NGO, humanitarian NGO, saying that yes, this is true. That the UK may be willingly hosting operations which breach international law. Now, if this is true and the claims are true, we can see we have a major problem here. That the UK is allowing the United States to do this, and this is specifically to kill individuals. And what the jobs that are being advertised right now, they're looking for candidates that can perform a variety of advanced targeting operations in support of GPS-guided weapons, weaponeering, and collateral estimation, as well as utilizing the tools required for advanced targeting. So we can see right now in all of those countries throughout the Middle East that are against the puppet government that the United States put into power, those people are called terrorists, Al-Qaeda. They use the drones on civilians. That's why you hear so many civilians being killed, because that's who they're really killing. Yes, they throw in the words Al-Qaeda, but you have to remember, Al-Qaeda is really the terrorist group that United States government central bankers support. Al-Qaeda, when you're talking about a country that was already overthrown, those are the civilians, the people that don't want the puppet government in power. Like in Libya, for instance. John Kerry is out there trying to convince France, Italy, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, United Kingdom to join together and give their full support to the unity government in Libya. Now, the people didn't vote for this government, and this is not a government the people want. So all those people who are against the unity government, they will eventually be called Al-Qaeda. They will be bombed. They will be droned. But right now we know the United States government is in Libya actually bombing those civilians who are against having this puppet regime. They are not recognized as their government inside of Libya. But the United States is forcing it on the people of Libya. Is this democracy? Is this freedom? No. So we can see from the actions of the United States government central bankers, they're not looking for democracy or freedom or for people to make their choice of who they want for a government. The U.S. is dictating who they should have. We see Russia is now sending 2 nuclear submarines into the Mediterranean, and they are equipped with cruise missiles. And we can see right now they have their aircraft carrier with destroyers in the Mediterranean. They have 2 submarines in this location. And we can see that they are prepared and ready to defend Syria from what the United States is about to do. And what are they about to do? Most likely they're going to have a major offensive. Because we're coming up to this point where the United States, they're using every lie, every piece of propaganda to convince the world that Assad needs to be removed right now, that Russia needs to be thrown out of Syria, because this is the only way they're going to be able to remove Assad. They need to get rid of Russia. And this is why you see all the propaganda coming up about Russia bombing Aleppo, about Russia keeping the humanitarian aid from coming into Aleppo. They have another one where Syria is using starvation as a weapon of war. They're not allowing the humanitarian aid in. So they're starving their people. It is a war crime under the Geneva Convention. And this is pure propaganda. And we can see right now Russia is saying this is absolutely ridiculous. We have all these corridors open. And we have evidence that, yes, the terrorists are preventing people from getting the humanitarian aid. They're killing people if they try to leave. And they're holding people back. And we can see right now this is propaganda. But we see right now Russia understands what the United States government central bankers are up to. They understand that they're moving the terrorist groups from Mosul to Raqqa, then to Aleppo, because Sergei Lavrov is out there saying, we realize that these terrorists are on the move from Iraq and they're heading into the Aleppo area. And we can see right now that he says Russia and Syria, well, they're not going to let this happen. They're going to stop them before they get to Aleppo. So they already understand what the United States government central bankers' tactics are, and they're pointing it out. So what we're seeing right now is the United States, as their propaganda, their lies die off, because they can't really make a case, because Russia contacted the UN, and they're presenting evidence that, yes, it is the terrorists that are stopping all the humanitarian aid from reaching the civilians. And we can see right now that Russia and Syria, they are ready to remove the Islamic State from that country and get rid of all terrorists. This is why Russia is building up their military presence in the Mediterranean. They're bringing in military assets because the United States at this point has three options. One, tell the truth, tell everyone what has happened here, and let the economy fail. And of course, when that happens, people will get rid of the government, they will get rid of the central bank. So we know that option is really not going to happen. The second option, leave Syria, leave the Middle East, let the entire economy collapse with no war. Again, people are going to point the fingers at the central bank, at the U.S. government, because they've been lying to us all this time, telling us that we're in recovery. How would they explain it? The third option, begin a war. Go full force to cover up the economic collapse. And we can see right now that if Russia and Syria remove the terrorists from Syria, there is no reason for the United States to be in Syria. When this happens, if it does, the entire system will start to unravel. And this is why I think at this point, the U.S. is going to pick the third option. And when I say the U.S., I'm talking about the central banks, the neocons. Now, it all depends on this election of when it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen no matter what. But the time frame is going to be adjusted depending on who wins. And we can see that they are preparing for this. Turkey right now is sending reinforcements to the Syrian border. We have travel advisories for families to remove themselves from Turkey. And we can see that the reinforcements include tanks, vehicles, other military assets, and they're bringing them all up to the border of Syria. Because they know at this point their backs are against the wall. And we're heading into a period of time where all of this together, because everything is connected. I know everyone believes like, oh, what's happening in the Middle East is not connected to the economy, but everything is connected because the petrodollar is the center of everything right now that has to do with the economy. If the petrodollar ceases to exist, this economy crashes in about 2 seconds. And they know this. So all of this that we see happening around the world, it's all interconnected. And we can see right now, they're not going to just give up their system. They love the power. They love the control. And this is why we're going to see an event of all events occur. I mean, we're getting closer and closer to that point. You know they're going to be pulling the trigger. You know they have to because they have no way out of this. Would it be better if the system just collapses and there's no war? Yes, it would be better for the people. But for them, it's not good for them because people are going to take them, throw them in jail. People are going to take them and say never again. The central bank will cease to exist. And they know this is what is going to happen. So they're going to continually lie, cover up until the very end. And again, they don't care if we go to war. They don't care if they bring the country to war because they do believe from everything that they've been doing, they can win it. They'll go underground, they'll let everyone else fight, and they do believe that when they are victorious, they will reemerge, transition the system, get rid of the rights of the people, and start this nightmare all over again. And this is why at this point, the people have to come together and start to realize what is happening. And we see we're getting closer and closer to that time period. We see more and more people are waking up. But we need to spread the word. We need to let everyone know what is going on. We can't wait until it's too late. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.